At this point, we are all well aware of how scary Vito Arujau has been, winning NCAAs with apparent ease, then decimating the field at the US Open, teching Austin DeSanto in the finals in 50 seconds, then teching his way through Pan Ams with ease, and now here at Final X, where he wrestled one of his only opponents able to match his speed and explosiveness, Nahshon Garrett. While the matches were a tiny bit back and forth, Vito rose to the challenge in spectacular fashion and won 2 matches to none, even though at some points it looked like Nahshon had his number. Match number 2 was particularly exciting and got the entire crowd up for a standing ovation at the end due to all of the action. It was exhilarating and a great example of what wrestling should be. Match number 1, about a minute in, Nahshon goes for a light snap with the right collar tie, meant to pull Vito's weight forward a little, making it difficult to react. He follows that up with a righty single and then starts to come up with it. Vito grabs a whizzer and tries to stay out front, possibly looking to sprawl, but then attacks hands to make it more difficult for Nahshon to use them, or to pull the hands apart so he can get his leg free. Vito could also look for that inside ankle pick that he did against RBY in NCAA finals, but it's not there this time. Nahshon pushes Vito's foot out of bounds, securing a push-out point, limps his arm out, and attacks the hips to go for the takedown. He locks up a gut wrench and threatens a roll, so Vito's forced to bail to the mat, giving up the early lead. This is really smart. We've seen a lot of people get gut wrenched on the edge of the mat like this and give up more than just a takedown. Nahshon is up 2-0. 15 seconds left in the first. Nahshon goes for one of his blast doubles from afar. It looks like a good time to do it. Vito looks like he's a little high in his stance, and a lot of times you can run through double down blocks like this, but Vito's able to stop Nahshon still, and then instantly fires off a double of his own. Nahshon catches an over-under. Vito pulls the knees into his chest and drives up and forward, looking for the feet to back, and does end up getting it. It looks like Nahshon might be trying to throw Vito with the over-under, but Vito cartwheels out of it nicely, not giving up back exposure as they roll to the mat, putting Vito up 4-2. 50 seconds into the second, Vito goes lefty collar tie, pulls, then lifts his left elbow to give way for a righty high crotch. Nahshon tries to step out of it. Looks like Vito had too good of an angle for Nahshon to sprawl, but the step out doesn't get anywhere, so Vito is able to circle right around. This step out can be effective if you're able to get your heel to your butt, which makes your opponent only hook around the bottom of your knee, allowing your leg to pop out and for you to run away or circle behind, but Nahshon's leg was still straight, so that wasn't available. Nahshon does go to a stand-up, probably to try to separate hands and get a quick escape, not giving up a takedown, but Vito is able to lock hands around the waist, and so Nahshon bails to the mat. He would do this because Vito is very dangerous from any upper body position and could easily suplex Nahshon backwards for 5, which you'll actually see happen in the next match. Score is 6-2 Vito. About 25 seconds to go in the match. They're getting towards the edge of the mat. Vito is in shutdown mode a little bit as Nahshon fires off a double from space and ends up pushing Vito out of bounds for a point. Vito was trying to circle and stay in bounds. Nahshon was just doing a good job of matching the angle and keeping Vito on the outside. Score is 6-3 Vito. 7 seconds left. Nahshon is on a knee. Vito goes collar tying, so Nahshon lifts the elbow on the left and fires off a righty high crotch in a desperate attempt to score. He pulls the knee and gets to a lefty single, comes up with it, but tries to go to a body lock for a throw of some kind because he needs more than a takedown. But Vito bails to his stomach, giving up the takedown, and holds on to the lead for a 6-5 victory. I would have liked to see Vito stay on the attack at the end here. Nahshon is so dangerous when you give him time to attack. He can score in such a small time span. It would really make sense to try to keep him on the defense as much as possible. Oh well. 1 match down, 1 to go. Match number 2 started off with a bang. Nahshon immediately fired off a lefty single, prompting Vito to sprawl back and give Nahshon a front headlock, but it wasn't very tight. Vito ducked under and circled around to the left as Nahshon stood up to his feet. Vito quickly found locked hands, lifted, and then back arched Nahshon for a really sweet 4-point feet to back. This is why you should bail to your stomach whenever someone gets behind you like this in freestyle. I have no idea why they didn't call this 5. It was the coolest throw I've seen so far, but these two were not done, not by a long shot. Scores 4-0 Vito. Nahshon does escape out of it as Vito drops to the ankles to try to get a leg lace, which isn't worth anything in freestyle. Hand fights and looks for doubles, which Vito does do a good job of blocking, but ends up stepping out of bounds again, giving up a push-out point. Score is 4-1 Vito. 25 seconds into the first, Vito goes quick arm drag on the right, looks for a single, but Nahshon steps out of it. Vito goes lefty collar tie. Nahshon pulls the elbow to the left and then goes righty single. This is another example of where getting a collar tie on the same side you have a foot up or forward can really burn you. Usually you see this on the left side of the body to a lefty single, but it's the same thing. It's easy to disappear under the arm and attack the forward leg. Vito does catch a down block on the left, which ends up hurting him, as Nahshon is able to turn the single into an ankle pick before he comes up with it, circles around, gets locked hands, and pushes Vito down for the takedown. Scores 4-3 Vito. Nahshon is able to grab a trapped arm gut while he pushes Vito down flat, which he uses to roll to the left and gets him back exposure. Scores 5-4 Nahshon. They go back to their base, but Nahshon pulls Vito to his back once again, giving him another set of points for back exposure. This is interesting because I don't think this should be points. You're supposed to let your opponent get back to a defensive flexible position in order to get another set of points. This just doesn't qualify to doing that, in my opinion. A lot of the reffing at this tournament was questionable. Score is 7-4 Nahshon. Vito's side does challenge, which is warranted, but they lose the challenge, so now the score is 8-4 Nahshon. That, however, did not deter Vito one bit, who continued to look for scoring opportunities as the match went on. A minute 12 left in the match, wrist control battles happening. Vito fakes a righty single, snaps the head with a lefty collar to the right, and pulls himself into a low righty high crotch. Vito comes up with it, cuts across to a double, and then circles around behind. This time, Nahshon wasn't willing to play with the position and bails to his stomach to give up the takedown. Score is 8-6 Nahshon. Vito drops the legs, which prompts Nahshon to come up to his base to defend the leg lace. As he does that, Vito then goes to a body lock, steps around, and does a low throw for 4 points. This is 4 because it is feet to back. By the time Vito was on the body lock, Nahshon was up to his feet a bit, and so rolling him like this gives the 4 points. Score is 10-8 Vito. Nahshon's side challenges the call, which it was really close, so it's warranted, but they end up losing it. Score is now 11-8 Vito. 14 seconds left. Nahshon is furiously charging Vito, trying to find any kind of score. He gets to a front headlock, locks up a head and arm, and rolls Vito for a set of back exposure. Score is 11-10 Vito. This is not really a head pinch. You would roll the other way with that, though I suppose it's within the same realm of it and can be called as such. As Nahshon rolls, Vito catches the leg and comes up with it, which changes the direction of the roll and so gives Vito his own set of points for back exposure. Score is now 13-10 Vito. Vito has an arm trapped, comes up with the high crotch. Nahshon now has a head and arm on the other side and tries to roll Vito in the same way to the right, but this time doesn't have as much control or as good of an angle to get the roll successfully. Vito posts and limps his arm out as time runs out and so comes up with the victory as the crowd stands on their feet after watching one of the most exciting matches they'll see all evening. Vito is a monster straight up. He's quick, explosive, goes for big moves, and is generally fearless and undeterred. He doesn't show much emotion, which is also amazing to see because it also means he seldom gets flustered or frustrated, which will put you out of your game. There are a lot of great examples for who kids should look up to and emulate. So many great wrestlers on our world team, but Vito is right there at the top of that list. He is such a great addition. Can't wait to see him take a medal home at Worlds.